All right, welcome back to Walk Through Open Doors. My name is James, and I'm really excited today because I am having my first guest on in a really, really long time, and y'all are going to think she is super cool because she is. Her name is Amrita Khurana. She is a real estate advisor, investor. She hosts a podcast. She speaks. She is passionate about helping people navigate just the biggest problems that life throws at them, and to do that with confidence. She works in real estate. She works in business. She likes having authentic conversations that empower others to build meaningful connections, and make confident decisions, and just create the lives that they were put here to create. And as you hear her talk and as you get to know her a little bit, you are going to see that that is absolutely something that she is capable of doing and that she does. She's also the host of the Amrita Effect, and it's a podcast, and it's awesome. And we're going to put all the information about that down in the show notes so you can check that out. She's an all-around awesome person. I've been excited about this conversation for a while. So, hey, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to have guests again.
I'm humbled to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
So you're up in New Jersey. You've done all sorts of stuff in your career, including you worked at the New York Times for a decade, right?
I did.
What was that like?
It was a stroke of luck, where I had just gotten married. I was raised in Connecticut and met my husband in New Jersey and moved here. And right before we were leaving for our honeymoon, a recruiter called me and said, "Hey, I have a consultant role available. Would you be interested?" I'm like, "I'm going to my honeymoon. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Sure. Where is it?" And he's like, "The New York Times." I'm like, "I'm interested.
Yeah.
Let's do it." And then I started when I came back at a consultant role. It renewed another year, and then I became full-time. And then a decade later, I left. I was on the business side.
What does a consultant do for the New York Times? What did you?
So it was just not consultancy in the fact that it wasn't a permanent employee position. So I didn't have insurance and all those things, but it was a regular marketing operations role. It was an entry-level role. But it was based on the fact that it was a 1-year contract. So it wasn't permanent. But then I did a 1 year, they renewed me for another year. And I think year 2 or year 3, they just made me full-time as an employee.
Did you enjoy working there?
I did. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was fulfilling, but I also would say that I didn't know who I was then. I was not aware of what Amrita wanted. She just, graduated from college, got married, was looking for the right job to get her foot in the door into the marketing industry. And New York Times was an amazing stepping stone to do that. But I didn't really know who I was. It wasn't until actually I left the New York Times that I actually woke up to see who I really was.
So it didn't really help you figure out who you were while you were there.
No, but that's not the company's fault. That's my own.
Of course.
Fault.
Yeah.
Because I was not in tune with myself. I wasn't surrounded by the right people.
Gotcha.
I think that was probably one of the key things I was missing when I was there.
Let's go ahead and jump into that a little bit then. You left there, you got surrounded by the right people, you started to find out who you were and what you wanted to. Just walk us through that a little bit.
It was I'm a woman of faith, so I like everything is revolved or anchored in faith for me. And when I was leaving the New York Times, I just had my 3rd child. And my husband and I knew that was it. We were going to have 3 kids and we were done with that chapter and what was next. And so we were debating, do I continue in corporate America, maybe just at a different company that would be more aligned with my skill set? I was in operations, but I wanted to go more into marketing and the creative side of it. And so I had an offer from another company in the city. And then when I said to them, "Hey, I've got kids in daycare and I need to leave the building by 4:30, but I'm a workaholic. I'll work all the time and you will not have a problem, but I need to leave the building at 4:30. And it was a business owned by women. And the look on the woman's face when I said that was like, And right then and there, I knew that company was not for me, because I did not want to put our kids in the back seat. I just didn't want a nanny to raise them Monday through Friday. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that was not the family dynamics we wanted. And my husband and I were on the same page with that. So I had accepted the offer, and then I rescinded it and said, thank you, but no, thank you. I don't think this is going to work. And at that point we were like, now what? Is this going to be the problem at every corporate door I knock on? And then I realized, okay, if that's the case, then maybe I just need to do something on my own. I need to be my own boss. So what does that look like? And I was going to pursue a daycare opportunity. My son was in a daycare, and I went to the lady who owned it, and I said, how did you get into this? What did you do? And tell me all about it. Walk me through it. And she did. And I said, do you want to open up another one? You and I could do it 50-50. You've already done one successfully. So instead of me doing it alone, I'll do it with you. And in my mind, I'm like, I'll do it once with her 50-50. And the next one I'll do on my own. And the next one I'll do on my own. And I'll grow that way. We walked through the entire process. And a friend of mine said to me, have you thought about real estate? You're a landlord. You've been a landlord for a while. Like, why not real estate? And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot that was an option. And it was like this whole thing. And I was like, oh my God, but I'm so far down this path with this woman on the daycare. And I am not the person to be like, I changed my mind to this other person. Like, she's invested her time, her energy. And we've been talking about this. We went to go see a church location and laid out a plan. And we were waiting for the church to just come back to us with a lease. And I prayed and I talked to God, like I often do. In my car, I'm like, dude, you gotta like get me out of this. If I'm supposed to go down another path, you've got to shut this door for me. And that it's so wild that your thing about walking through open doors was kind of similar to what I said to God. I was like, I have this opportunity. I didn't think about it. I was late to the realization, but now I know, and you've got to help me. If real estate is the right path, and if that's where my success lies, you need to close this door on its own. Mm-hmm. I can't walk out on the woman. I can't do that to her. I'll just have to put real estate on the back burner until I open this daycare. And sure enough, a couple of days later, the church calls us and says, I'm sorry, we're no longer renting the property.
There you go.
The door just closed.
And so that led you directly into real estate. It sounds like you were kind of given not permission, but it was like, hey, this is your path.
Yes.
You've mentioned God a couple of times. You've mentioned faith a couple of times. We've talked about it outside of this. Yeah. And that's one of the things I've been most excited to talk to you about. And this seems like just a good segue. So you are of the Sikh faith, correct?
Yeah.
Tell us for somebody who doesn't know anything about that, tell us about your faith.
Okay, so the basics of it is the faith basically believes that there is one creator for all of humankind. Okay. And that one creator, if you want to call the creator, the divine, the light, whatever, is within each and every one of us. Same God is in you, same God is in me. There's just one big creator for the human existence. And we lead with love, honesty, compassion. And that's like the basic fundamentals. Do the right thing, earn an honest living, and share your contribution. Share what you earn with others. Okay. In the most simplest forms.
Right. And we already see evidence of it just in what you said. You have this opportunity you've gotten locked into, you kind of given your word, somebody else had invested their time. It was going to be inconvenient for you at the least to continue that, but you left it open to say, hey, if this opportunity stays open, I'm going to walk it out because I've given my word. I've agreed to it with this person. So we already see where your faith and what it dictates you do impacts your actual decisions. Where else does it do that?
Honestly, there isn't a part of my life where it doesn't do it. So that means from how I live my life with my husband as a married couple, it's applied there. It's applied to raising the kids that I have. I have 3 young boys that I raise. It's applied in my business on a daily basis. Okay. And it, quite frankly, my faith really pulls me off the edge when I'm on the edge with any type of, challenge or like any other human being. I've got a nervous system that goes out of whack. And it's the anchored faith that pulls me out of that, whether it's anxiety or I've dealt with depression in the past as a kid, or any unknown. Like I lost my father. I literally held his hand as he passed away in front of me. And it wasn't as hard as one would imagine for me.
So there's a couple of things there I want to jump into. When you mention how it informs your faith, how it informs your marriage, how you are with your husband, how you are with your kids, I think it sounds like we see some of it in you turning down a corporate job opportunity because it was going to conflict with how you wanted to raise your boys. How is it like how you are with your marriage and your husband? How might that be different from somebody who does not have a faith? Or what does it inform y'all to do?
Sure.
That it might not, that other people might not?
So it's not that other people may not do it, or there's nothing the faith is talking about that is so wildly different, but I'll give you one example. One of the key elements in the Sikh faith is really to be guarded from what we all have, which is our ego, right? Our ego is front and center all day, every day, to prove we are right, to prove I have a point, to prove my point is correct and yours is wrong, or mine is better than yours, that kind of thing. And that's not a concept you've not heard of, but it is an important thing that the faith lives on, right? And in marriage, simply, if I walk into any argument with my husband and I don't leave my ego at the door, who's going to actually win?
Right. Because
the ego is going to try to fight to win. And if my ego wins, I've lost.
There you
go. And so, and it's not easy. Leaving your ego at the door is not easy, Yeah. But one of the key principles that we've applied in our marriage is that we consider ourselves one unit.
Mm-hmm.
We were always and always will be one unit. There isn't him and I and his way and my way. It's us together. We're the team. And we're doing life as one single unit. And I'll give you an example. When the kids were born, I was reading books like any other new mom, all excited about, children and all they're made out to be, which I'm like, oh, that's overrated. But
they don't tell you all of it, do they?
No, they don't give you the bad and the ugly,
Right.
Just the good. So I'm like, oh, we can sleep train and we're going to put them on a schedule and we're going to let them cry it out. And it's going to be great because we're going to have a life and it's going to be structured. My husband's like, we are not let anybody crying it out. Like, that is not the methodology I want to apply. I don't know anything about any research. I don't know anything about this book that you're talking about. I don't know anything about stats, but my gut tells me we cannot do the crying out method. That is not going to work. And I'm like, but the book says it. There's an author. Like, this book has been around and people are doing it. There's so many parents. He's like, my gut doesn't agree. And at that point in time, I could sit and be like, no, it's going to be my way. The book says it. This is what I want. I'm the mother, blah, blah, blah. I know better. But I gave in and I said, you know what? If you feel so strongly, I don't feel strongly out of gut. I just was like, oh, there's a book. It says something. I kind of like what it says, but I like it because it gives me some space between me and the kid, right? It was about me. It wasn't about the kid. His perspective was it's about the kid. Mm-hmm. How can any infant, newborn soothe themselves when you're the only thing they know and they came out of the womb? Like, no right, no wrong. So no judgment on any parent out there who does the crying out method or the disciplined method. Like, no judgment there. It just wasn't our dynamic. And that's what he was saying. This is not the way I want it done for us as a family. And at that point, I could have fought it, or I could say, okay, we're going to do it your way because you feel so strongly about it. But then I'm going to get on board with that way. I'm not going to say, this is your way. Look how it's going wrong and look how it's all messed up. No, we're going to do it this way. And I'm going to get on board and we're going to do it together this way because that's what we chose.
What I hear in that when I see, the ego, good Lord, if you meditate, if you study meditation, if you study, really, I think if you really study any of the major faiths, you're going to encounter the ego in a different terminology, but it's there.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
What I hear in that is, number one, your awareness of that ego, you being able to say, oh, crap, this was about me, not about the kids. I was telling myself that it was best for the kids, but it was really for me. That's a rare talent, being able to recognize the ego popping up like that. And it was even harder in that situation because I find that if we're not careful, the intellect gives the ego a lot of padding.
Mm-hmm.
I read it in a book, and it
Mm-hmm.
just, I'm so sorry that the book is right and it happened to agree with me. Being able to set those aside, especially in a situation that's going to impact your sleep, your routine, that's really rare and really cool. Is meditation part of your faith? Is it part
Yeah.
of your life?
Yeah, very much so. Very
What
much
does that
so.
look like for you?
So, the prescription through in the faith is that you rise in early hours. And the early hours could be anything for anyone. But typically, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, where you're doing this before sunrise. And the purpose of that is the world is still quiet. Right. And that's the key to any meditation, no matter who you talk to and which faith or not faith. Even just a person who works on energy will tell you quiet time of meditation is really when the work happens. Right. And so I am not a 3 o'clock riser, unfortunately for me. It is a work in progress and I will get there one day. But my meditation basically is as quiet time as I can get. Sometimes it is with hymns that I listen to. So like if you know anything about choir, or if you've been to uh, like a church, like where they actually sing in choir, that is what the hymns are like. And there could be, so the instruments that they use or the style of singing could be very calming, or you could do very intense. And that's no different in choir. Like you could have really gospel music and be very soothing and soft and calm, or it could be super intense with a lot of high energy, right? So sometimes I listen to the hymns when I meditate, and I'll meditate. Other times I won't listen to any hymns and I'll just meditate quietly on my own.
Okay. That's, I love hearing that, because that's the one thing the hill I'll die on is that meditate first thing. Do it before the brain gets going. Do it before the ego gets too churned up, And it's like for me, we've talked about this. It's literally get up, go to the bathroom, knees on my blanket. Like and if I don't do that, I've been doing this for years. If I don't do that, the chance of me doing it later in the day, it just diminishes to nothing before I know it.
Yeah.
And I've also always thought that like there's something about what we give the first time of the day. It's, I've always, in Christianity, it's the tithe is not just 10%, it's that first. And I've always thought about giving God, giving that spiritual part of your life the first. Yeah. And that's, monks in monasteries, that's the first thing they do. There's something to that. So at 3 a.m. is pretty rough. Everybody tells me I get up too early and I don't get up till 4. So three's hardcore.
Yeah.
So that's it's so obvious how your faith is something that actually informs what you do. It determines your decisions. Mm-hmm. How does that play out in real estate for you? What are some situations that maybe you handled differently or didn't step into at all because of your faith?
So, real estate is a really cutthroat industry. Yes. Everybody and their mother has their license, and the competition of picking a realtor is so high. Like it's the ridiculous number. And you have to, sometimes, people will pick you. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they will do business with you and switch out for no real reason pertaining to you per se, and being able to take those blows, because those are rough, and say that, I served a client. It was really good. They gave me raving reviews. And then that client said, I want to switch to somebody else who focuses on the town I'm searching in. And you don't live in that town, therefore I want to switch. And to me that, if I get wound up in that rejection, which is very real, especially with somebody with ADHD, because there's a component of RSD in there, right? The rejection sensitivity dysphoria. If I get caught up in that rejection, I'm not going to serve my other clients well. I'm not going to maybe recognize other opportunities and doors that are going to be there for me. And I'm just going to sit in this turmoil. Or I could say, I accept it, because ultimately nothing is happening outside of his will.
There you go.
So for me, everything happens within the will, and everything happens exactly the way it is supposed to.
Okay.
So if a door shuts for me through whether it's a client that says no, or I go to a listing appointment and there's 4 people being interviewed and I don't get chosen, I'm not gonna sit in that for long. I'll be disappointed for sure. I will try to analyze what could I've done better for sure and make any changes that I should make from the learnings from that appointment, but I'm not going to stay there and it's not going to dictate my energy. I cannot allow it to. Because then it's going to prevent me literally from other doors that I'm going to miss because I'm spewing in this negative energy.
That is the ability to recognize that every opportunity is not an opportunity for us is, I assume this had to happen to somebody, but there was somebody who was driving to work on 9/11 for a big interview. They were super excited and they got a flat tire. And, they're changing that tire and they're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing. This is awful. And then they looked up and they saw what happened. And the privilege that person has is seeing how their plan was not going to work out for them. And I think of how many of our plans had some disaster at the end of them and we never knew because we never got there. And being able to root that in a faith is huge. And then the other thing I hear in that is that your identity, your worth, your value is not tied to this client picking me, to this deal going through. You have it rooted in something deeper. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair way to look at how that you mentioned pulling you back from the ledge and helping to center you and ground you in something deeper? Yeah. So it's cool to talk to somebody who it informs their life in so many ways, because it's actually like you make decisions from it. You say yes to things and no to things from it. Where does Sikhism, where does it originate from for people who don't know?
So it's from Punjab, northern part of India. Okay. And it was formalized as a religion back in 1699, but the start of the faith was from like the 1400s, and I was born in Delhi, which is, the capital of India. But the religion, obviously, the people of the faith have spread all over the world. It's the 5th largest religion in the world.
Okay. Yeah. When you and I grew up in New Mexico, and Espanola has one of, is it the largest or one of the largest in America?
Probably one of the largest. Okay. It may be the largest. I'm not sure.
The thing I always remember about the Sikhs growing up was that they were feeding people, always feeding people. Is that a tenet? Is that a foundational thing?
100%. So the food we serve at the gurdwaras, which is the house of worship that we go to, and they're all over the world. There's different gurdwaras everywhere. So like Jewish go to synagogues, Sikhs go to gurdwaras. Okay. And there's always food, ample food, always available for serving to anyone who walks through the door. Okay. And the Golden Temple, which is the main headquarters, if you will, has 4 entrances in the way it was designed. And the message behind that is no matter what faith you are or what belonging you come from, there's a door here that is open for you. There's not just one door, there's 4, and the food is its significance is that, one, you eat it on the floor. You don't eat it on a table and a chair. And the reason behind sitting on the floor is you could be a king or the richest man of the world, or you could be broke and be homeless. Mm-hmm. But you all need to sit on the same playing field. Like you all need to sit in humility on the floor with the ego left at the door, and your financial status or your title or your caste, which was a big thing back in India at that time. People belonged to different caste systems, which was obvious based on your last name. Like people treated you differently because of that, right?
Very differently, yes.
And so people didn't marry outside of their caste. Like it was very prevalent. And so it was to diminish those things.
Okay.
When
it was doing that way before Gandhi and all that, it sounds like. Okay. So So you've talked about coming over here as an immigrant,
Yeah.
growing up in poverty. What did that teach you? I mean, because you've talked so much here about, open doors and possibilities and things like that. What did you learn growing up in more poverty than you're in now, and how did that inform your life and the way you do things?
So I'm still, I think, learning about the effects of the poverty from then.
Mhm.
One of the things that I've worked through is um, I I developed this scarcity mindset
There you go.
that there isn't enough money
Mhm.
because that's what I came from. We came from not enough money. There was never, you know, enough money to do the things that we would like to do. Like a simple thing for a kid is, back in this, early 80s when we came here, it was like a Happy Meal was such a cool thing to do for a
Right.
kid because you got a toy.
Mhm.
And my parents couldn't afford the Happy Meal.
Right.
Like we couldn't afford it. So I never got a Happy Meal and I always wanted a Happy Meal. And and then it was like many examples like that. Like we wouldn't go to eat out because then we would have to pay for beverages. And
Mhm.
so we could save on that if we actually just picked it up and took it home.
Okay.
We wouldn't want to not tip someone. And so to save the tip, we would not eat out so we could just eat at home. And so I always, oh my God, so fascinated over people that had the ability to go eat out.
Right.
It was such a far-fetched thing, but it was so cool. I wanted to do it and I never could.
Yeah.
And I talk about it in my first episode of my podcast where I used to deliver papers to help make money for my family. And I started delivering papers when I was like 8 years old. Like they didn't have the age restrictions they have now.
Right. Right. We all worked when we were kids back in the
Yeah. So
80s.
at 8, I had like a paper route. It went from 1 to 2 to 3. And when I was first delivering papers, I would like make $1 here, 50 cents here. When I would have enough to, when I would have like $5, there was like it wasn't even a diner, but it was a storefront restaurant shop, small, was really deep. And I would walk by and see people eating.
Mhm.
And I was so fascinated. And my family couldn't do that. And I couldn't do that. So when I had $5, I would go in there and buy an apple pie because that's all I could get, an apple pie and like a hot cocoa. And I would do that when I was done with the paper route. And nobody knew. My
Right.
parents didn't know. I didn't tell a soul. But now I look back and it was like, it wasn't me trying to rebel or trying to hide something. I was just like, I wanted this other world
Mhm.
that I could see, but I couldn't have. And these are such reflection points now because I'm looking back at it with so much more grace because back then it was like, why can't we do this? Like, why don't we have enough
Right.
money? And this scarcity just continued to live inside of me. And it wasn't until maybe 10 years ago that I started realizing that there is a scarcity mindset I have, and I need to get past it.
The way that sticks in us is so profound. I'm 47 years old. I feel guilty if I eat out. If I've got food at home, if I'm not on the road, if I'm not traveling is like this freedom in my mind because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to eat out.
Yeah, you
But
have to.
if I get a drink with it, I feel a little guilty. It's like that's not necessary. I have it like tied in my head to like bad stewardship or wastefulness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I see that in so many ways, and it just kind of pops up here and there. And I think we want to be wise with
Yeah.
what we're given,
Yeah.
but we also want to be wise with what we're given and be allowed to enjoy that and to not perpetuate that mindset. What's been the biggest thing that has helped you step away from that scarcity mindset? Because that's one I see. I've worked with people who, I mean, have more money than they will ever be able to spend, but cannot spend it, cannot stop working because it's because that's the thing with enough. That's something we have to choose. If we're waiting for it to come, it's never going to come. That's something we have to that's an intentional thing. What has helped you move past that in the way you live? And how do you walk out a more abundance mindset or a non-scarcity mindset?
So it's still a work in progress. I have done some meditation around it. Kelly Resendez, who runs GoBundance, which is what
Mhm.
I'm a part
Yeah.
of. she hosts these abundance mindsets because women especially are standing in their own way. And for some women, it's like maybe they're holding something where they don't feel like they're worth the money they're about to spend, right? They don't feel the worth within themselves. So everybody's coming from it from a different angle. And she hosts these abundance mindset calls. And I've done a few of those where there's a lot of emotional work that you have to do to go back to that time of when you're carrying that memory of scarcity. And, there are times when I did it, the first time I did it, I cried. It was intense. It was too much. And then I think it's also a shift in my mindset, in the wiring that I have, that the money was given to me to spend. It wasn't, I didn't earn it to hoard. I earned it to spend wisely. And if I don't spend it, the economy doesn't grow. Like, you could look at it in any which way. Like, it comes and then it flows and then it's going to come back. Like, it's just money flows.
Right.
Just like energy flows, right? So it's like saying things like that to yourself, and it's retraining the brain almost, which again, I haven't accomplished. it's still a work in progress. I just sent the text to my husband because my oldest just got his license 2 days ago. And I'm like, oh, by the way, the insurance premium is going to be this. This is what it was. And his reaction was like, oh my God, that's a lot. And I was like, and I was already prepared for the crazy number. And I'm like, it's not so bad. We make enough and we're going to spend enough and it's all good. Money was made to be spent. And so it's okay. Yeah. And there was once a video I saw somebody sent to me, and I can't remember the term, but it was about money flowing from you. And when you spend it, don't spend it in scarcity. Spend it almost like, I'm happy to spend this because this is going to go and flow into somebody else's pocket, and it's going to feed somebody else's kid, and it's going to pay for somebody else's soccer shoes and whatever, right? There's other positive things that are happening by me spending this money.
Right.
And it's going to impact so many families. And like my cleaning lady, I happily pay her. Mm-hmm. I don't have to clean. And guess what? Her kid can get the medication she needs because she cleans my house, and she can go buy the prom dress for her kid. If you just change the lens you're looking through, it starts to come with ease.
Well, and somebody buying a home.
Yeah.
It's you, somebody wanting to grow their company benefits. It all goes in different directions, and money that's not moving. What is it? It's stacks of paper. It's money has no purpose outside of movement. Yeah. And I think we can still be wise within that. This is not a license to be frivolous.
No.
Just from talking to you, I know you're also generous with your money and you're generous with your time. But I think that this idea of it moving, of it being an energy that has to go out and do different things, that helped me as well, of realizing it's not doing any good sitting in a safe in an envelope over here, which is literally where I have my safe. So I'm thinking of that. It's but it took me some time to get out of that. So that's a really interesting way of looking at that. I love that.
Yeah.
You mentioned ADHD. This is such an interesting conversation because it's I was a therapist for a long time. And one of the things, ADHD to me is the most overprescribed and overdiagnosed and underdiagnosed thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's I have so many people who say oh, I'm ADHD. No, you're scattered, or you have trouble concentrating, or you had too much caffeine this morning. True ADHD as a the real diagnosis is so it is something you have to contend with and that you have to pay attention to in life. It's harder than people think because we talk about it so freely now. We've kind of taken some of the meaning away from it, I think, in a lot of ways. Tell me how it impacts your life, and tell me what do you do to manage it?
So it wasn't until my youngest son, who is 11, got diagnosed when he was 9. And it wasn't until his diagnosis came, and as I'm going through learning about it and filling out all these forms for him, I'm like, I do that. I do that.
Yeah.
That was me in 3rd grade. That was me in 4th grade. That was me in 5th grade. That's why I couldn't keep my GPA up. it was just like, it was like my academic life was going right in front of my eyes in different scenes that were relating to the forms I was filling out for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I have to go get tested. And of course I did a year ago, and was very relieved in so many ways that I did have ADHD with underlying anxiety and depression. And he has the same. And I mean, for so many reasons. The number one reason for me was he doesn't have to think he's doing this alone. He's got somebody else in the family that has the same processing that he's got. So he never has to feel like you don't know what it's like. So that was the biggest relief for me, that he and I could do this together. And then, my God, like it healed so many open wounds that I was carrying from my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So many open wounds. So I grew up in a house where I had undiagnosed ADHD. Nobody around me knew. And my brother was the other extreme. He was just naturally gifted academically. Right. And was recognized in the gifted program and was inducted into the gifted program and could spend 20 minutes and get an A studying and get an A on his test, where I could spend hours and not retain anything and get a D if I was lucky. So like my entire academic career was trying to prove I'm not stupid. And that has probably been the hardest rewiring I had to work through. Like I still hear it in my head, like, you're not smart, or you don't know what you're doing, or you're so careless. Like these are the things I heard growing up. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't anybody's fault. They just didn't know. Like they were like, why do you continue to mess up? And I continued. I failed with flying colors at every opportunity I could get. If it wasn't communicative, if it was anything to do academically, I was failing. Communicatively, I soared. I could carry a conversation. My uncle used to say, she will take you to the market and sell you, and you wouldn't know that you got sold. That's how good of a talker she is. My teachers would say to my mom, your daughter talks too much. She is such she talks way too much. She won't be quiet. And my mom was like, I have a perfect solution. Put her next to a girl that doesn't talk. A girl that's on mute, put her next to the girl that's on mute, and she won't have anybody to talk to. They were like, we tried. The girl on mute started talking.
Yeah,
like,
now we've got two. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's not working. And I'm like, and I look back at that now. I'm like, well, look at that now. Like, here I am. You know, I'm successful. I'm a podcaster. I'm a speaker. I manage clients. Like, but it took so much work for me to look back at that history and forgive everything and forgive myself and like heal those wounds of like, I am not stupid. I just had a different processor and nobody knew how that worked.
Right.
And then as I learned more about it, I'm sorry,
please.
Passionate about the topic, but as I've learned more about it, I'm like, holy shit, I've got like some crazy superpowers because of this.
That you guessed my next question. Was I really believe that while it does present challenges, it also gives people superpowers. So tell us about your superpowers and how they pertain to your work and everything you do.
I mean, I am very persistent. And when I get fixated on something, you tell me that this is a task and if I want to do it, or better yet, if you say I can't do it and it's something I want to do, buckle up. Like I'm going to town and I'm going to be so persistent. And it has served me so freaking well. When I first met my husband, he was interested. I was not interested. I was like, nah, I don't have time for this. I'm not looking to date anybody. Not happening. Then when I woke up and I was like, I'm ready, I'm good. Let's get together. And he's like, not right now. And I'm like, oh, no, right now. Cause I'm ready and we're going to do this. And I chased him for 4 years. I was relentless.
Yeah.
And we would break up, get back together, break up, get back together. Right. And I stayed steady. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. You're going to marry me, boy. And you just don't know it yet.
Right.
And 4 years later, he came to his senses and proposed, and we got married, and we have children, and it was a beautiful story. But if I didn't become laser focused on it,
Mm-hmm.
yes, the divine has something to do with it. Our souls were supposed to be together. That 4 years was supposed to be as painful as it was. It was supposed to be up and down, all because we were supposed to learn from all that. And yes, he was supposed to be the person I was supposed to end up with. But what if I had given up?
Right.
What if I just walked away?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in my business. I don't think I would have been as successful in an industry that has a 97% fail rate.
Right.
So out of 10 agents that get their licenses, more than 9.7 of them,
Right.
3 years in, are going to leave the industry.
Right.
I'm here. I'm soaring. I'm very grateful.
There you go.
But it's because of this superpower.
When you said persistence, that was the first thing that came to mind for me was real estate, because I don't know if we talked about this. Like, probably 75% of my business is real estate and real estate agents. I do execution and accountability groups. I work with brokers. I work with owners. I am married to an agent. A lot of my time is spent hanging around with agents at this point. And this, like, the misconception I see all the time. I see memes about it. It's like, I'm a real estate agent. I'm going to unlock a door. Give me $30,000. And it's like the people who say that have no clue what the industry takes. It is one of the hardest industries to get your foot in the door. There are some cutthroat people. The thing that I don't find much of a middle ground in real estate. Some of the most amazing, awesome people who I have invested so much in are in this industry. And a lot of people who I've immediately put boundaries up and just slowly kind of distance myself from are in this industry. And when you are one of the awesome people trying to do it the right way, dealing with all the rejection, and it's not normal rejection either. I'm talking to a client and we're talking and we're going to get together and work. And then they get back to me a week later and they say, hey, this is not the time for me. Cool. It's an amount of money. It's not $30,000 that I just showed them 50 houses and invested all this time. And I've written up all these contracts. It is such a brutal roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk about ADHD and persistence in real estate, tell us a little bit about that, because if you're not persistent in real estate, you are not in real estate for very long.
Yep. So, you do need to stay on top of your clientele. You need to stay on top of what we call lead generation, because when you start in the business, they're not coming to you. You got to go look for them. You got to find your next paycheck. You got to find the next family you need to help. And again, there's so many realtors to choose from. Why should they work with you? And so creativity is another thing I've unlocked because of this ADHD, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am super creative, and I started my business by running events. I was like, well, I can stuff your mailbox and tell you I sold a house every month. I could tell you I did that. But how is that helping you? I'm cluttering your mailbox. You're going to take it and throw it out. Take it and throw it out every month. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of your time, and it's a wasted effort. So how can I take the same money, and instead of giving you a postcard about a house I just sold in the neighborhood, how about I create an event for your kid? Maybe they can come decorate a pumpkin every October. And that's what I did. I started with one event, built it up to 2, built it up to 10. And I've been doing the same event every October. We decorate pumpkins in town, and it's been 10 years, Wow. And people come. Not everybody does business with me, and that's okay. That's not the intent. I want to there's something to be said about the boomerang effect. You do good, good comes back. And so I just keep doing the good, doing it. It is a marketing effort. Do not get me wrong.
Right.
But of those, one person will say, yeah, I like your vibe. You seem like I could trust you, and I want to do business with you. Great. And if from one event I get nothing, also great. Because you know what? I need to do good. I'm going to continue to do the good. Right. And it's going to put a smile on these kids' faces, and it's going to be good energy into the universe. And that's all I can ask for.
Well, and it's also, what I hear in this is, oh, she talks too much. Well, look, I'm talking to all these people at these events, and I've built a business on it. Yeah. It's just another way that these things that were liabilities when you were young or viewed as liabilities are now what's fueling you to move forward now. And you are, like, just in our conversations and from listening to you talk, it's, authenticity, persistence, community. these things are just so important to you. I see it, I follow you on Instagram and I see it on your Instagram. The things you share about, you're always with people, you're always doing something. And so I can absolutely see where the ADHD but when you manage the difficult parts of it, the other parts really do become a superpower for you, and they can just propel you forward. So tell us a little bit though, where does ADHD maybe make real estate a little more difficult for you?
So staying organized is challenging.
Okay.
Everything I need to do must be a reminder in some capacity, in some sort of technology or Post-it notes that are sitting on my desk, which you can't see.
Yeah.
But everything must be a reminder. Like I'm saying everything. Like if I need to pick up my kid after school every single day for 180 school days, it needs to be a reminder, because otherwise what happens is I'll get so fixated on a task for work or anything else. I'm so in it that nothing else outside of that exists anymore. It's a weird thing. Like you get you forget you have kids, you forget there's a pickup, you forget you're married, you forget everything around you. You're in this zone, which makes you do what you're doing so well. But if the reminder doesn't go off, and that has happened, where my kid will call me and it's like, hey, you want to come pick me up? School's done. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm on my way. I'm on my way.
Yeah.
And I hang up and I pause what I'm doing and I go get him. And that has happened to me more than I would like to admit. But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, but you just have to find methods to help you cope, right? For me, it's reminders.
For me, it's a lot of strategies. The medication was not good for me. It made my life harder than without it. And those reminders that my phone makes no noise. My phone is on silent and do not disturb 24/7. Everybody that knows me knows if I don't text you back in 24 hours, text me again. The one thing that my phone does make noise for is the 10 minutes before every single event. And if it's somewhere where I need 20 minutes travel time, some things I'm able to get locked in my head, but it takes a while. But other things never saturate into my brain for some reason. And every time they pop up, it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this, But like you said, what I appreciate hearing is that you have taken responsibility for the strategies and putting the things in place to take care of those things. And so, but it's interesting to hear you talk about ADHD. It's you have a very intentional approach to it, and you have a way of looking back at how it impacted your life. I can tell you've done work with it in kind of like reconciling with it. Yeah. And saying, hey, you're here. How do we work together? You're not my enemy. But we've got to make this work. And that's really, really cool. So,
yeah.
So, on this show, I talk a lot about opportunity. I talk about, the things that we need to have in our life for the opportunities to be good for us and stuff. What are you working on right now? What's next for you? What are the things you're excited about?
I am, as you know, I started my podcast about a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago now, it came out of another event I was at. And it was like, so what does Amrita need or want next? Like what am I, again, this goes back to my faith. We read scriptures every day. There's a set of prayers that we read every day. And one of the prayers, there's a line in it that says, you've been given this body. What are you doing with this body in this world? Like what have you come here to do? Right? This soul, what have you come here to do? And when I was at this last event, I had this, like, there's something more. I'm serving families in real estate, which I am very passionate about. And I take it, every family is like my own. Every house that gets sold or purchased is like, it's my own money. Like everything is done with like, as if I'm sitting in their shoes. So it is very meaningful. It is very fulfilling. But there was something else inside, but I didn't know what it was. I still don't know clearly what it is, but there is something else. Like there's more to serve. And that's how the podcast came about, where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a podcast. And my husband was like, okay, so is it going to be real estate? I'm like, no, nothing to do with real estate. I've got real estate. I'm doing that. I don't need another vehicle for real estate. This is something else. And it's like, okay, well, what is it? I'm like, well, and I had to do some soul searching to figure out who is the audience and what am I talking about? Because, I love to talk. So I realized that women are someone I'm inclined to work with. I always enjoy it. I love the energy, and it's something that feels aligned to me.
Mhm.
Of course, obviously I'm a female, right? So, but it was very clear that it had to be women. And then it was like, okay, well, what am I doing for women? How am I serving them? Because this podcast is not me making money in any capacity. Like, that's not what this is a passion project. And so then I did more soul searching, and I was like, okay, it has to be women who are going through some sort of transition, because transitions, which are happening almost every 5 years for us, and every transition is very hard. When you leave college and start your life, you start a job, that's a transition.
Right.
When you go from being single to getting married, that's a transition. If you need to get divorced, that's a transition. If you go through a loss of a pregnancy, that's a transition. If you have a kid and become a mother, that's in transition. And then when the kids leave and you're an empty nester, that's transition. And in your, oh, by the way, in your 40s, you wake up and realize you're in the wrong career and you want to switch jobs or switch careers, that's a transition. Like, it's endless, right? So I can go on and on about the transitions. And it was like that, and I've been through so many of them, including, hopefully will not go through the divorce, but almost every other transition I've gone through, right? Like, I've had the miscarriage, I've had the kids, and I'm a very mindful parent, but I also, on the same breath, hate parenting very much. Like, there's so many things that I can bring from real experience that I can talk about and have guests and experts I could talk about, that I could help someone who really needs it. And God knows I needed this type of help all throughout my life. And there was nothing really out there that podcasts didn't become a thing until recently anyways, but even now, is there one centered place where women in transition are being addressed? And there wasn't. So I was like, okay, that's it. And there was a lot of talking to God. There was a lot of signs. There were a lot of breadcrumbs along the way that helped me get here. So that's the project that I'm working on now.
Yeah.
And my goal is that with one episode, I help one woman.
Mm-hmm.
I win.
There you go.
Then this body has served some purpose with every day that this body and the soul is here. This vessel is here to serve. And while I'm serving families in real estate, this is another medium where I can serve women that I don't even know.
Yeah. So you've been doing it, you said, about 2 months now?
Yeah.
Are you enjoying it?
I'm loving it.
Good.
I'm learning so much with every single interview I do.
Right. That's the fun of it, I think, is like, I love intentional conversations. I feel so fortunate that my job is nothing but intentional conversations all week long.
Yeah.
But to get to have them in like a structured environment where it's not like this conversation is not just for you and I. The purpose of this one is to introduce anybody who watches mine to you and what you're trying to do. Yeah. And so it shapes it. There's a flow to it that's not always there in conversation. And it's cool how many more things you get to learn. Yeah. That come up in that. So that's really cool. That's really, really cool. We've talked about a lot. I mean, from India all the way to a podcast, when you look back over your life, what are the decision points that really led to the largest changes and largest openings in your life? One I heard was, saying no to that job. And so you could stay home with your kids. I mean, that absolutely transformed their life. It shifted the life of your family, all of that. What other decisions of walking through doors or letting doors close? What do you see as the most important ones that you've encountered?
The first one was waking up to the faith that I was born into. And that waking up period, that realization, it took some time. Because while I was in college, I had this almost identity crisis that I went through. And during that crisis, I went into a depression because I was like, who am I? This is the faith I belong to, but I'm not really aligned. I'm not spiritually there. So I feel like I'm living a lie. Like, there were so many things that I was going through during that time. But that time led me to different realizations. And during that process, it was like I woke up to the faith and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, no, this is for me. And then I started falling in love with the faith and the scriptures and wanting to fall deeper in love with it and really letting it be my anchor, not because I was born into it, but because this is what I'm choosing for myself. Right. And so that was probably the first decision point or door that I embraced that was always open, but I just wasn't walking through it. I was circling it, you know?
I think that in those decisions, so the door's open a lot of times, but it's like I tell people, like, there's some decisions that it's like you're driving on a country road, you can pull off anytime you want. Others, it seems like you're on an interstate and you got to wait for the exit and you miss an exit, but there will be another one. But it's like somehow, it's like, okay, this is time for this.
Yeah.
I've seen it with people like with drinking. Yeah. They'll say like, I'm not going to quit right now. But then all of a sudden that exit comes and they're just done. And it seems like that appropriate time came and you walked through the door. And I can see in such a deep way how it informs your life. Just, I know I've said that a couple times in this conversation. Yeah. It's just clear. This is the foundation that everything you do emerges from. And that produces a cohesiveness in you that I think a lot of people are seeking, especially in our modern times, when so many people I'm talking to, they're looking for roots. They're looking for something to be grounded in. Yeah. And, a lot of what we find on social media, that's not that. It's not going to give it to them. And so I love that. I love that.
I'm grateful for it. I really am, because like you said, not everybody has that.
Right. And it shows for the people who don't. They suffer. So yeah. I'm going to step out of the podcasting here real quick. So we're probably at the point of wrapping up. Is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to?
No, I can't think of anything. I'm just, okay. I'm still like, wow, he wants to talk to me. He wants to interview me. Like the imposter syndrome. Oh, I mean, yeah, of course. It's like, I'm still working through that. Yes, of course. Yes, I have value to add. But I say this. I only say this because I know there's others listening who might be in a similar situation where they're like, really, me? Why me? And it's like, why not you? Right. I have to remind myself, why not you?
So in this conversation, like what's one thing that's really blown me away is not just all the distance your life has covered, all the cool things, but the identities you've had to move through. Mm-hmm. You talked about, not feeling smart, and now you're doing this and you're hosting a podcast and things like that. What would you tell people who look at that and they are stuck in those old identities and they don't know, like, how do they get to where you are, where you're on these podcasts and people are listening to what you say and you're feeding into people's lives so much? Like, what is it like to be there?
Okay. So, surround yourself with people who see in you what you don't see in you. Mm. And borrow their confidence when you don't have yours. Borrow their belief in what they see in you when you don't see that for yourself. Mm-hmm. And what that means is, and I was giving this analogy to somebody else. If I said to you, hey, James, I have a friend and her name is Amrita, and Amrita is so creative and she's super passionate and super emotionally like in tune with people she speaks to, and she can articulate her thoughts. She's so cool. She's great. You got to meet her. You wouldn't say to me, I don't know. Right. I don't know. Is she really that creative? Is she really that authentic? Like, I don't know. You wouldn't doubt it. You would trust what I'm saying about her, right? And so if you're not going to doubt it when I'm explaining to you about this person, why is it that you doubt it when I say that about you? And I say, hey, James, this is what I see in you. Right. And you're so quick to doubt and so quick to deflect and so quick to say, no. Like, I remember I couldn't, my therapist has to really work on me a long time to just accept a compliment by just saying thank you. Right. I could not accept a compliment to save my life. Mm-hmm. I would deflect. I would say things like, oh, if somebody said, oh, that picture's so pretty. And I'd be like, oh, the lens really did its magic. Right. Like quick deflections. Like I will never, it was too uncomfortable. Right. And what I'm saying to the listener here is, if somebody sees something in you and you don't see it, don't deflect, don't dismiss, just borrow that vision,
There you go.
borrow that confidence until you build up your own. And you will build it up. You just have to allow their speak, their verbiage, their things that they see and say about you to ruminate in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually your voice will quiet down and theirs will actually stay aloud until you begin to believe it. Again, until you begin to have the same level of confidence that you need to have to say those things about yourself.
There you
It
go.
takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but borrow somebody else's vision.
And when you trust what somebody that you trust says about you, and you just let it get the littlest, tiniest foothold, other people start feeding it back to you.
Yep.
Other people start feeding it back. So, well, in the spirit of compliments and and people seeing things in you, I just want to tell you, I'm so grateful for this conversation. I loved hearing about the depth of your faith and the way it's carried into everything, going back to young you, to where you're going in the future, to how you take care of people now, to how you run your business. I'm just so grateful for this conversation. And just the depth of it has really been striking to me. And I think it shows the value of having values. It shows the value of being grounded in something beyond yourself, something above yourself. And I'm so grateful for that. Where do people find you? All the people who want to know more about you, who want to hear your podcast and social media, where do they find you?
Sure. So the podcast is called The Amrita Effect with an E, and I'm all over the main channels, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. I'm also on social media. I live on social media, and it's not like I have a business page I do have a business page and a personal page, but really my pages reflect everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like the challenges in motherhood, the wins of real estate, the fails of being an entrepreneur, like marriage, you name it. It's real and it's raw and it's there. And it's Mawa Real Estate by Amrita. And you could just search my name also, Amrita Khurana, but the handle is Mawa Real Estate by Amrita.
Put both of those down in the show notes just for people to be able to find me. I want to tell y'all, follow her on Instagram. She does these chai thoughts that are just 3 little things that she's noticed throughout the day. They're really cool. There's some really just little nuggets of wisdom that are suddenly in there. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to everyone. I've enjoyed this conversation so much, and I'm
Me too.
looking forward to the next one we have.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.